Hi there, I'm Simon Austin Beckett. This is Winston. I am a training dog behaviourist, and today we're going to be talking about the important stages of your puppy's development. Now, I picked this topic quite pertinent at the moment. What with the lockdown, lots of people got lots of time on their hands at home, and you've seen it in the news. Lots of people have been adopting dogs. Great news to take dogs out of shelters. Puppies are obviously in themselves very, very popular. And whilst people are at home and could dedicate the time to them, it seems to have made a lot of sense to people to adopt. So I wanted to talk about some of the sort of critical periods in a puppy's development, what they are, and things you can do in those periods to help with their long-term development into adult dogs and beyond. So, first off, let's talk about what those periods are. So, between 0 and 2 weeks, so from the moment they're born to about 2 weeks old, we call this the neonatal period. Beyond that, they then move into what is called the transitional period, which is between 2 and 4 weeks. After that, they then move into the socialization period to dogs, which is between 4 and 6 weeks. And then you also have the socialization period to humans, which is between 4 but all the way up to 16 weeks as well. So they're the sort of 4 stages of their development that we talk to. And what I'm going to do is go into a little bit more into each of those and what you can be doing in each of those stages to help with their long-term development. Some basic facts. Puppies are born with just 3 of their 5 senses actually working. They're born with touch, smell and taste. What they can't do when they're born is see or hear. This only begins to develop in the what we call the transitional period, so between 2 and 4 weeks, when they start to actually become more mobile. They can hear things, they can see things. Before that, they do pretty much nothing else but eat and sleep, which is obviously pretty much everybody's dream. In fact, at the moment, it's probably what a lot of people feel like that's all they're doing as well. So this transitional period, it's critical in a puppy's development. This is when they really begin to test all of their senses and how they work, and then what using those senses, what sort of experiences they get off the back of that, whether it's a positive or a negative experience. So the first thing they're going to want to obviously do is use them, and they will. This is when their teeth start to make their nasty little appearances, and we all know what puppies' teeth are like. Very, very needle-like and quite painful if you come into contact with them. They'll also start to make real efforts in walking about. They'll start to sort of do little sort of yapping and barking, growling. They're potentially, they're just becoming a stumbling ball of potential mischief. It's at this stage that they are still critically reliant on their mother. The neonatal period, all the way through this transitional period, when they're stumbling about and having positive and negative experiences, they're very reliant on mum at this point in time, and it's really important that if for any reason anybody ever offers you a puppy at this age, you absolutely and utterly must say no. Do not take a puppy away from its mother at this period of time. It's very young in their development, and they learn an awful lot in this very short space of time that will affect them into their later years. Once this stage is complete, and as I say, this normally lasts up until about 4 weeks of age, what puppies then do is they move into what we call the canine socialisation period. And this is often between 4 and 6 weeks of age. This is actually, of all the 4 stages we're talking to, it is probably the most influential period of time that they will have in their entire lives. This is when they really start to sort of play fighting and really interacting with their siblings and their surroundings around them. This is when they start to bite a lot, and this is when they also start to do bite testing, as we would call it. It's this period of time when they learn when they've gone too far. Mum would have disciplined them in the earlier weeks, but not to any significant degree, because they sort of get a bit of a green card to be naughty for a certain period of time. But it's in this socialization period with their siblings and dogs between 4 and 6 weeks when when they overstep the mark, they will be reprimanded, and they'll be reprimanded rather quickly, certainly by mum, but also when they're playing with their siblings, they will also get negative responses to them, which will start to teach them that when they've gone too far. An interesting fact, actually, puppies' teeth, as we all know, they're sharp and they're nasty little things. They're actually there's no point to them being sharp at this age. They feed on nothing but milk, so having sharp teeth teeth at that age has no other purpose than actually to hurt. They are biologically designed to be painful for the exact reason that they inflict pain quickly, and therefore the dog learns quickly when they are biting too hard. So actually, as a biological component to the puppies, their teeth are designed to be sharp to hurt. So sorry to give you the bad news for that one. It's not a mistake. It's a biological process that has determined that by having sharp teeth, they learn quicker when they actually use them too much. So pain is inflicted very quickly, even with the slightest too much of pressure, and then the response, which is often with their siblings, the squeal, or even the bite back, quickly teaches them when they've gone too far and when they need to rein it in, or when they need to not bite so hard for future. Just on that as well, which is an important point, once we take the dogs home, it's critical that we continue that learning phase with our puppies, and teaching them when too much is, biting too hard is too much. We need to mimic what their siblings would do. So that's that sort of high pitched squeal, that shocks to them is the best thing that we can do, because they're very sensitive to those sounds. Often the mistake we make when we take our puppies home, and when they bite us, our immediate reaction, which is not unjustified, of course, is to yank the hand away, and feel that sort of pain, yank the hand away, and then go into scorn the puppy, shouting at the puppy. All you're doing by doing that is turning the whole thing into this wonderful game. At that age, puppies have no concept of discipline to that degree. They certainly have no concept of lowering of tone of voice and negative tone of voice or anything like that. It doesn't register with them. All they see is they bite something, they'll obviously hold on to it, you're pulling away, it becomes like a game of tug and war. You shouting at them and lowering your voice and stuff and telling them off, saying no, has no effect on them whatsoever, okay? The best thing you can do at that age, if the dog bites on you, is to not pull the hand away, as awful as that sounds for people if they're really going for it. Make a very high-pitched noise, which often almost immediately breaks that off anyway. Then remove your hand from the process and stop the game. Do not play with the dog. Give the dog no attention whatsoever, the puppy. Just don't engage anymore. What that teaches your puppy then is, if I bite too hard, everything that I was enjoying up until that point has stopped. That is the best way of dealing with a puppy biting you. Don't make a scene. Don't afterwards give shouting, screaming, or anything like that. Just stop all activity and then pause, and don't play with the puppy again for several minutes. And very quickly they will learn that once they bite to the point that it hurts, this happens. That's the result. That's the result they don't want. So the next time, and over time, what will happen is they'll start to inhibit that bite response, and it will become weaker, and it should become more playful and less sort of aggressive in its tone. So the most important thing you can do for your young puppies during the socialization period, so between 4 and 16 weeks essentially, is something called habituation. Now, this is quite simply habituating the dogs to the surroundings which they are in, and that includes the visual, the things they can see, the things they can smell, the things they can hear. And it's critical. It's a critical part of that socialization period. They are hypersensitive to changes and experiences they encounter in this period of time, both from them going out and finding out for themselves and stumbling around and finding these things, but also from outside influences that come to them. So things that other things do to them. Dogs might come to them and do something. People do stuff that forces them to have to adapt and acclimatize to the environment that they're in. Successful habituation benefits not just the dog themselves, as we know, but also humans, us, because what it does is it helps reduce the dog's anxiety in reaction to unexpected events. So by habituating them at a young age, they are less susceptible to shocks and to anxieties and things in the future when other variables come their way, because they've had that early experience of change and frequent change as well. Genetics play a huge part in why dogs are naturally cautious. It's a survival instinct thing. It comes from when they were obviously wolves. It makes sense for any animal when they are young to be cautious of things that they're not used to or that they're aware of. Things that are not just dangerous but are potentially dangerous or maybe hazardous. Now, in today's environment, the man-made environments that we have, there's not often many things that a dog would need to be ready for or prepared for. Although there's not to say there aren't. Of course, there's hazards and things around houses all the time. It's not as severe as it would be if they were in a wild environment. But their well-being is part of their genetic coding. It's something that they are conscious of, and therefore strange things or changes to their environment are generally seen as an adverse thing. And what we have to do during the socialization period, during this what we call habituation period, is to try and desensitize them to those things. So because of a dog's natural aversion to new or unfamiliar things, it's important that during the habituation stage, that the stresses are enough to be detected, but they're not so much that they become frightening or certainly not painful to the dog. So as an example, the vacuum cleaner, the Hoover. The dog needs to be aware of it. He's going to need to be habituated to his presence. It's an object that they're likely to experience, time and again certainly in their home environment. But they must experience this. It's noisy. It needs to be introduced slowly, piece by piece, in a way that it starts with the vacuum cleaner simply being present in the space that the dog is in, all the way up to you having a really good clean of the house. Okay. Dogs that aren't introduced in this way to something such as a vacuum cleaner, or if it's done far too suddenly, if you suddenly just plonk the vacuum cleaner in front of the dog, turn it on, and off you go, they're not going to become habituated to it. Okay, it could lead to them becoming incredibly anxious and desperate to avoid it. It may be that they hide away from whenever you bring the vacuum cleaner out. Or the alternative of this is that if the dog is more inclined to aggression, whether that's anxiety, aggression, or whatever it might be, they may begin to attack the vacuum cleaner whenever it comes out. Or in worst case scenarios, if the dog makes the association with you're the thing that gets the vacuum cleaner and therefore starts it, the dog could become aggressive towards you to try and prevent you from you actually going ahead and using the vacuum cleaner in the first place. So the intensity of the stressor, as we call it, so in our instance here, the vacuum cleaner, should be increased very, very gradually, and done in such a way that they become accustomed to it in their space. So as I say, first off, it's simply in the room. Not in the room that you bring it in and plonk it in the room, but it's in a room that the dog is likely to walk past it and be aware of it. Then on occasion, quickly turn it on, turn it off, make a quick noise and then turn it off again, and then move on, and let them have a space and a time. It is literally whilst it seems long, drawn out, that's what you need to do in order to habituate the dog to something such as a vacuum cleaner. And that goes with anything that is noisy or that is unusual like that is hard for the dog not to be aware of. It needs to be very small and slowly and introducing things over a long period of time so that it becomes like a background thing to the dog and they're no longer aware of it. And then just to sort of reinforce the point, really, introducing any sort of stimulation, whatever it may be, the Hoover we've talked about, any household appliances, you've got the fridge makes a strange noise, the washing machine makes a strange noise, the dishwasher obviously makes an incredibly strange noise because Winston will sit there and stare at a very specific part of it as soon as it starts up for sort of several minutes. So all of these things make weird noises and strange noises. It's very important, whatever these stimulations are, that the result of them to your dog is not shock and doesn't immediately instill any sort of fear response, especially in puppies as well. Any negative consequences that the dog receives from a new stimulation being brought in, not only will it make it difficult to get them acclimatized to that over a long period of time, but actually you could have the adverse effect and instantly instill an anxiety there, which you will then find very difficult to break. And it can literally just be one or two occasions whereby you shortcut and you think, oh, the dog will be fine, there's fireworks, we'll go over the field where the fireworks going off. One time that dog goes over there and realizes, oh my god, that puppy or whatever, I don't like this is awful. That could cement itself in your dog's mind for there and after, and you could then try and scale all the way back and start again with soft noises and this, that, and the other. But that immediate shock, that immediate fear may have imprinted itself on your dog very quickly. And I appreciate that you can't always plan for these things, right? But start young and start slow, and increase things over a period of time. There's a flip side to this. There is also, a fundamental issue with introducing these sort of things too late in the dog's development. So, we've looked at these periods of the dog's puppy's development. Some people may think, oh, he's far too young to be used to all this, these changes in his environment. He's far too young, but up to 16 weeks, good Lord, no, he just needs to rest, he just needs to play and just have a lovely time. Very, very, whilst the sentiment behind it seems to make sense, it's a young animal and you don't want to shock it. They're dogs, and they, their biology and their chemistry and their genetics are tuned to being able to cope and to survive. And therefore, the earlier you can do it within these critical periods, and as I say, once you get to that 4 weeks where they're socializing with other dogs and other people anyway, this is all the time that you want to really sort of mix things up and get a lot of stimulation in there to help them in future. Leaving it too late, they become acclimatized, they become habituated to the environment they're in, and then changes to that at a later period of time then can cause issues. That's the issues then obvious and fairly apparent. You get fear, you get apprehension, you get the avoidance of new things, and then they might just suddenly become nervous about anything. That could then manifest itself as barking. Your dog may soil themselves, they might hide, they may then become very antisocial. And they might come, as I say, some dogs become aggressive, and dogs, that often are brought to behaviourists or vets, say my dog is, and no one can come in the house. They're always, he's always aggressive. It often is a result of them not having enough socialisation and enough habituation and enough stimulation in their early puppy development. People left it too long, and the dog is just not used to variations in their environment. In a nutshell, and I appreciate I've sort of rattled through quite a few of these topics quite quickly, but those 4 periods in your puppy's development, and it's a relatively short window we're talking here. We're talking from birth to 16 weeks. That is when socialization, habituation, stimulation, teaching that bite inhibition, all of those, your puppies are hypersensitive to these changes in their environments and to these learnings more in those periods of time than they will be in the rest of their lives. And the more you can get in front of them, and the more you can habituate them, and the more you can teach them that that's too much, and making those noises and almost giving them everyday, like this is everyday life, this is how everyday life's going to be, and you need to be used to it, the better your outcome will be when the dog is older in later life. Now, there'll obviously be other videos about, because naturally there will be situations whereby you adopt dogs that are older and stuff, and we can, that's other behavioural things that there's always a way, there's always something you can look at. But if you've got puppies and you've recently acquired a puppy, make sure that you use this time to really up their experiences and their interactions and their stimulations that you can. That's it. One thing I did want to recommend, actually, if you have got a puppy, this is a very good book that's worth reading. And this camera's terrible; it's very difficult to see. There you go. It's Patricia McConnell. It's the Puppy Primer. Really, some of the stuff that I've spoken about today is actually in here. But if you're looking for something to have a read, check out on Amazon. Really, really good one to have a look at. I'll pop it up on the side here. I've probably already done it actually, so I'll pop it up again. Ding. There you go. Have a read of it. Really useful. Thank you very much. As always, I will stop now. My website, dogsgowoof.co.uk. Facebook, Dogs Go Woof UK. Me and Winston are on Instagram, _Winston, no, _Simon Winston, and Dogs Go Woof is _Dogs Go Woof, _. Thank you very much. If you want to talk to me about any of the things that I've spoken about today, please feel free to reach out. That's it. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you didn't. I'd love to hear it. It always makes me laugh if people hate stuff. It's much funnier. So just let me know. Cheer me up. Speak to you soon. Take it easy. Bye.